September 29th of 2018, I allowed my then 11-year-old daughter Piper to go on a school field trip. It wasn't just a school field trip. The entire field trip was organized, promoted, and ran by Principal Ty Bell. But not as principal. He was actually promoting his own company called Educational Youth Tours of Oklahoma. Educational Youth Tours of Oklahoma is not registered in the state of Oklahoma with the Secretary of State, nor is it insured. Our checks were made to be made payable to Educational Youth Tours of Oklahoma, but I did not know this. I made my check payable to Cleveland Elementary. Principal Ty Bell called me and asked if he could alter the payee to the check. He didn't say, can I alter the check so that it can go in my bank account? He just asked if he could alter the check, and I thought, oh, well, maybe it needs to go to like a PTA account or a separate fundraising account. So sure, do what you need to do. I gave him permission to alter that check, but I certainly did not know I was giving him permission to alter the check so that it could go into his personal bank account. September the 29th, and we're at the school really early. All the kids are excited. The teachers and parents are helping load the buses and so forth. And so Piper chose a seat, and when I was looking through the windows on the school bus, I could see shoulder harnesses. So I'm like, oh, awesome. Our school bus is equipped with seat belts. So Piper picked a seat, and I'm standing outside, and we're signing I love you, and I tell her to buckle up, and she responds back to me that she can't, that there's nowhere to buckle in, and I said, well, look around, search for a seatbelt that works, and sit there. And so she looked around, she changed seats, she looked around. There was not an accessible lap belt anywhere near my child. And I later learned that there were not accessible lap belts anywhere on the bus. I heard a rumor that there was one, but there were not. When I walked the bus myself at the school bus inspection, I did not see any accessible lap belts except for the drivers. So Piper's on the bus, and she is sitting by a friend, and they are now en route to Texas. I'm able to stay in contact with her via text, and I'm getting some text updates from the teachers. I know they stopped at Babe's Chicken House, they did a dance, they had a wonderful time, and then they went to Buc-ee's. And this is where the story starts becoming very convoluted and very messy. The children report, Piper included, that the money was left at Buc-ee's. That one of the teachers or the principal, somebody left the money bag at Buc-ee's. So they left Buc-ee's, got some distance away, and realized they didn't have the money bag, so they had to turn around and go back to Buc-ee's. I've asked the question repeatedly of, was the money left at Buc-ee's? Was the money recovered? No one will answer these questions. Another mom I know was asked to see the video from inside the school bus relating to the Buc-ee's trip and the missing money, and no one will answer her as well. So as the principal, Ty Bell, is driving Piper's school bus, and it's on a road he doesn't know, unfamiliar, it had been raining, but at this point, Principal Ty Bell loses control of that school bus. The bus crossed the incoming lane of traffic, spun, right, and then he used faulty action, and the bus rolled 1.5 times before hitting a fence and then rocking back on its tires, okay? Now, let me tell you what my child told me first. My child told me first that Mr. Bell was turned around and talking to a teacher, and I thought, maybe she meant earlier, I didn't understand. And then my child also told me that after the bus stopped rolling and she woke up because she had lost consciousness, she believed that the principal and the teachers were dead because they were just gone. That she's looking for them and she cannot find them. Now let me tell you, on March 18, 2019, I was allowed to watch the video from inside that school bus. Principal Ty Bell was turned around and talking to 5th grade teacher Janice Campbell, and I don't mean like this. He had one hand on the wheel, his entire upper body was behind him, and he was pointing back like this with his head thrown back. He was not looking at that road. He lost control of that bus because he was not looking at that road. And this wreck was completely preventable. I asked the investigating officer as well as the Lampasas County District Attorney, why was he not charged with distracted driving? He was not looking at the road. And I was told Texas does not have distracted driving laws unless a cell phone is involved. Therefore, if Tybell would have been on his cell phone having this conversation, he would have been charged differently. But because he was just his entire upper body turned around, hand pointing behind him, laughing, he only was charged with two things: unsafe speed and faulty action, which meant that once he lost control of the bus, he did not know how to safely regain control of the bus. Therefore, his direct actions not only caused the wreck itself, but the rolling. Now, if this isn't enough to outrage you, let me tell you what happens next. That bus rolled 1.5 times, and I saw my child on a high-definition camera. And she was sort of sideways in her seat because she had just adjusted her pillow, and so the wall is here. This is the window, and this is the wall, and her pillow's right here, and she's kind of got her back like this to it. So you see, when the bus spins, she's grabbing out like this with all the other children trying to brace themselves. And then when the bus rolls, the first thing you see is she hits right here of her head, right above the window on that metal thing, and that's what knocked her unconscious. Then the bus rolls. And at that point, you lose her and all the children and the luggage. But I can tell you that after the bus rolled, she was 4 rows forward into the opposite side of the bus. And she climbed out of a pile of girls. The pile was at 6 to 7 children high. She climbed out, and my child stood in that seat in front of the high-definition camera number 3 and was in a state of shock, looked very confused, was looking for help. You watch her look for help. Where's my teacher? Where's my principal? Looking for help with just shock and trauma on her face. A few seconds pass, and then you really see it register. She starts screaming. The screaming on the video was so intense that I had to ask them to turn off the sound. I could not handle it. I started shaking violently, and I put my hands over my ears, and I asked them to turn the sound off because I could not handle hearing the terror in those little girls' screams. So after Piper stands up, there's like 6 girls or so in a pile. Some are conscious, some are unconscious. And Piper, one of her little friends, is there, and Piper has a broken shoulder, and she starts trying to pull her friend out of that pile of bodies with the broken shoulder. And you see her grabbing her shoulder and pulling on her. Now, if my then 11-year-old child, who suffered a traumatic brain injury, who had lost consciousness, who they thought she had internal bleeding, and definitely in shock, if she knows to not abandon her friends and the injured, why didn't the adults that were on that bus? So after the bus stops, Principal Tybell has one hand on this window, right? Because he's bracing himself. He gets up, he undoes his lap belt, and he just exits that bus. He does not turn around. He does not provide comfort, care, first aid, or assess any child on that bus. He had to maneuver and wiggle to get out of that bus. He had to fight to get out of that bus because the door was broken and there was debris everywhere. Okay? That man just abandoned our children. Now it gets worse. The 5th grade teacher, Janice Campbell, chatty teacher that Tybell was talking to the whole time, guys, she did the exact same thing, only slower. She did not turn around, she did not comfort, she did not assess, she did not provide first aid. She just saved herself and only herself, and you watch her get off that bus. And I understand that she was injured, but she still had to wiggle over all the debris and the broken door and everything else, so she wasn't too injured to save herself. Meanwhile, you have bodies of children everywhere. Bodies of little girls that were abandoned after the wreck that these 2 people caused. And you can bet I'm mad as hell. And I'm mad as hell because Norman Public Schools knows this. They've known this from the beginning of the wreck, and they've hidden it. They've hidden it from parents in the school district, and they've hidden it from the community, because once this truth gets out, no one will have confidence, or no one should have confidence in Tybell for certain as a principal, and you'll have to make your own judgments about teacher Janice Campbell. Now, mass casualty protocols were put in place Our children were left alone on that bus until Good Samaritans began boarding that bus. They were alone on that bus several minutes before strangers boarded that bus to help our children. It's insane, is what it is. So they began transporting children. The first people I talked to on the phone were actually, just Good Samaritans. And then I finally started talking to emergency personnel. They told me that Piper had a concussion, she had a bump on her head, and that her shoulder was dislocated. Piper was transported to Carl Darnell Army Hospital at Fort Hood. And there they called me and told me that she had internal bleeding, but that it was not an urgent situation. I was only about maybe 3 hours away at that time. They were going to wait until I got there, assess her again, and if she needed surgery, they would do it at that time. So I'm racing to Texas just as fast as I can. I stayed on the phone with Piper almost the entire time. All you could hear was screaming and crying children. It was incredibly traumatic. But once she got to the Army hospital, I felt better. She did not dislocate her shoulder. She broke her shoulder. And they did 3 fast scans, showed, the first 2 fast scans showed internal bleeding. The 3rd fast scan showed it gone, that she wasn't bleeding internally. So they got another doctor to do a 4th fast scan. And at that point, he looked at Piper and he said, "You got a miracle, little girl. You don't need surgery." They kept her several more hours for observation, and then they allowed her to go. They told me to get her into the doctor as soon as possible because she had, bruised ribs, bruised clavicle, broken shoulder, and we didn't know the extent of the concussion at that point. And she was later diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury, and now she has severe PTSD. So my frustration as a mom comes in several points in this. So immediately after the bus crash, of course, the media is calling. They're wanting to do interviews. They're wanting to talk to children that were on the bus. Piper had the choice of doing a couple if she wanted to. I think she did 2 total. So a reporter with Channel 25, our local Fox network, named Chris Stanford, immediately began contacting me and asking me what could I tell him about Principal Tybell. And, we were all in a state of shock. And I literally wrote to him, that man would die for our children. I did, because I believed it. And meanwhile, we are organizing as parents. We had a meeting at McAllister's. There was lots of communication about coming together and supporting Tybell. Support Tybell. He is devastated. He is so upset. It was just a bad accident. So we did. We all wrote letters of encouragement. We sent cards. I sent an audiobook that I thought would help him. But he also stayed very far away from at least me. Like, we did not have a conversation. Someone else was assigned, an assistant principal was assigned to deal with Piper and me. He would not meet with us again, which I thought was really suspicious. So meanwhile, we're all being encouraged through the PTA. We're all being encouraged by other parents to reach out, support Tybell, show Tybell love, blah, 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 blah. So the reporters are contacting me and asking me questions, and I'm just refusing because I'm like, there's no way. He is so sorry. The PTA is coordinating all this love for him, and I'm not going to be the one that does anything, against that. So fast forward a little bit, and I think it was a little over a week, we got our refund check for the school field trip. And my refund check was on a personal account of Tybell. I found that so weird. Why was my school field trip refund check on Tybell's personal account? So I sent him an email and, was like curious because if he did lose the money at Buc-ee's, and he had to go take out a loan to cover all of these parents and their money, I wasn't going to cash the check. I wasn't going to do it. But he would never respond. He would never respond about the lost money at Buc-ee's. So I did deposit the check, but I thought it was weird that it came on his private account. And then the pieces just kept revealing themselves, that this was never a regular school field trip, that this was Norman Public Schools allowing Tybell to use his own business, Educational Youth Tours of Oklahoma, to promote to these kids for years and years and years. And I know that they're saying the school issued a statement saying that they are unaware that Tybell ever made money off the students. But that's not the same as saying Tybell never made money off the students. It was an illegal, unregistered, uninsured company. illegal, unregistered, and uninsured. And at one time, that bank account had more than $33,000 in it, according to the investigative report from Channel 25. So saying we're unaware that he made money by selling field trips to students and saying we are positive he never made money off selling field trips to students, those are two different things. Those are two different things. Now, this gets a little crazier too, because it was actually that reporter, Chris Stanford, who told me there were cameras on the bus. I had no idea. I contacted the administration because, my God, I did not want that released. And I spoke to COO of Norman Public Schools, Justin Milner. Justin Milner said, "Oh, Mrs. Draper, do not worry about it. We will make sure that video never gets released." And I'm like, oh, thank God. I can't imagine the trauma that would do to my child, right? And I said, well, does the video show anything? Oh, well, I had to watch it, Mrs. Draper. That's my job. But I can promise you this. Mr. Bell had both hands on the wheel. He was looking forward at the road, and his phone was in his pocket. You can trust me. I watched the video for myself March 18th. Ty Bell was not on his phone at that point, but he did not have two hands on the wheel, and he was not looking forward. So from the moment school officials saw that video, they knew the cause of that crash, and they knew the actions of both Ty Bell and Janice Campbell in the moments after that crash. They knew that those two people abandoned our children. I thought school officials were supposed to be first aid certified, especially if you're taking a bus full of children out of state. Why don't you know what to do in emergency? I mean, at the minimum, if you didn't know what to do, stay with the damn kids. Stay with them. Even if all you can do is say, it's okay, guys, help is coming, help is coming. But no, you abandoned 24 children. Some were conscious, some were unconscious. All were injured. All were traumatized, and all were scared out of their minds. And these two people that we entrusted with our children just hopped off that damn bus. You bet I'm mad. And the cover-up just continued. And then you find out it's not even a real school field trip. It's Ty Bell's illegal, unregistered, uninsured company. Then the hits get even greater. Norman Public Schools and their insurance company file something called an interpleader against the parents of every child that is in the school bus wreck. Basically what they say is, we only have $1 million in insurance for all 24 children and the 3 adults that were on the bus. There's not enough money to pay everyone's medical bills. So what we're gonna do, so we can keep our hands clean, right, is we're gonna give the $1 million to the court, and then you parents fight each other to see whose medical bills get paid and whose don't. It is true, there were children on there that were not hurt very much at all. There were children that probably only, had minor injuries and now, have some nightmares and some PTSD issues. But there were also some very serious injuries. My daughter has a traumatic brain injury, and she will need long-term care. Long-term care. And she won't get it through the lawsuit. She will not get it through that because there's not enough money. And I'm not comfortable fighting other parents to say my kid's medical bills get paid over your kid's medical bills. Piper was not the most seriously injured child. I want to be very clear about that. Piper's row held some of the most serious injuries. But I'm only telling Piper's story. I don't have permission to tell anyone else's, which gets to the last part of this puzzle. So in the weeks after the crash, the PTA organized. We were really encouraged to reach out and support Ty Bell, let him know, how much you love him, support him, all of the above. After I watched the video from inside the school bus on March 18th, I began demanding that the cameras 1 and 2, just those 2, be released. If you have a child in Norman Public Schools, you deserve to know the truth. Okay, so cameras 1 and 2 will show you Ty Bell's face, what he's doing, and his conversation with the teacher right over here, and then it will show you out in the road. You will not see the children in those videos except for the very, very end when they're being offloaded off the bus. But what you will see with cameras 1 and 2 are the cause of that crash and the actions and inactions of Ty Bell and Janice Campbell in the moments leading up to the crash and in the moments after the crash. I'm fighting for those 2 cameras to be released. You deserve to know the truth. Okay? You deserve to know the truth. Now, Norman Public Schools is making sure that those videos are never released, because if they are, there's going to be a lot of accountability. The people that let Tybell remain in his position as principal and take some of those same kids on a second field trip to Camp Goddard in the same school year, it's insane. Okay? But let's go back to the PTA. So we're all supporting Tybell, we're all loving Tybell until I saw the truth. And then I began to demand the video be released. One of the posts I had made was in support of Tybell on my Facebook page. When I saw the video, I edited it and I said, this man is no hero. You need to demand the truth now. Demand that cameras 1 and 2 are released. If you have a child in the school, you need to know the truth, right? That's what I did. So I began being harassed by PTA moms. One PTA mom in particular, Stacy Proctor, called my work and asked me to call her back. I texted her and said, what is it you need? And she said, I need to talk to you. And so I said, okay, I'm not going to argue with you though. So if you start arguing in any capacity, I'm hanging up, because I figured I knew what this was in regards to. So I call Stacy Proctor and she wants to know how I somehow got her to share a post condemning Tybell, because she would never do it. Well, I edited the post. I mean, it was plain and simple. Anyone with any basic understanding of posting and editing could understand that. So she wanted to know how I tricked her, how I manipulated her. I said, look, I didn't hack into your Facebook. Okay, but I can't explain to you why, you shared that post. You chose to share that post, before I edited it. So anyway, she then immediately started rapid texting me, telling me I was everything that was wrong in the world and I wasn't a very good Christian because Christians are supposed to forgive. I blocked her. I'm not going to have this conversation. Within minutes, teacher Janice Campbell's tagging me on Facebook. Same thing. So the PTA becomes this weapon, and they're going after parents who are speaking up about the truth. Fun fact, Tybell's personal lawyer is PTA member Tracy Schumacher. She's who represented him. And if you go to Cleveland County PTA Facebook page, you'll see that she was also the one who did the jogathon last year. So at Cleveland Elementary, the PTA is now basically a weapon. Mean Girls Wear Pink on Wednesday kind of weapon. Or is it Tuesday? Whatever day Mean Girls Wear Pink. That's what's happening. Now, an additional fun fact is, after harassing and intimidating anyone who's asking that the truth about the wreck be released, these moms, these PTA moms, have formed this whole, I'm going to call it like a secret society, where they go against anyone wanting the truth out. Guess who was just hired as a brand new kindergarten teacher at Cleveland Elementary? Stacy Proctor. Tybell rewards his friends very, very well. She was silencing anyone who was speaking out about the crash, and she's rewarded with a wonderful new kindergarten teacher position. It's on the website. Go look for yourself. So I'm one of the only ones that child was in the wreck demanding the truth. Others are afraid. Several of the parents actually work for the school district. They can't speak out. Several of the other parents' children are still at Cleveland Elementary, and they seriously fear retribution from speaking out. Some of the parents are afraid of the social pressure from the other PTA moms. Their kid won't get invited to the birthday parties and the slumber parties and all of these things that happen, so they're not speaking out. But you see, none of that matters to me, because my child has a lifelong sentence of a traumatic brain injury with severe PTSD. She will always be at risk for further brain injury if she hits her head. It's a lifelong sentence because a principal did not look at the road when he was driving 24 children. That's insane to me. That's crazy to me. So I don't care about the social pressure from the PTA moms. I just block them and move on. It does not matter to me. It doesn't matter to me if teacher Janice Campbell tags me in 1,000 Facebook posts. But what I found was interesting was within 10 minutes of Stacy Proctor calling me and then texting me, Janice Campbell was tagging me on Facebook. I honest to God, do not care. My child is broken. She has a traumatic brain injury. She had a broken shoulder. She had a bruised ribs, bruised clavicle, and whatever happened with the internal bleeding, I don't know, but I know it was there and I know it wasn't. She's been diagnosed with severe PTSD. It's a year later, she still has to ride in the back seat because if she gets triggered when we're going down the road, she will go into fight, flight, or freeze, and she always goes to fight, and she hits and she kicks and she screams. I have audios of her in the car having meltdowns just that I could play it for her doctors so that they could help me with her. My child is in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy every single week to deal with the trauma from the wreck. And then she sees a neurologist for the traumatic brain injury. And it's still not enough. Oh, and a neuropsychologist as well. Until someone proves to me that the children are safe, I see this as a huge liability. I'm asking for transparency and accountability with Norman Public Schools. The superintendent knew this truth the whole time and hid it. Justin Milner lied to me directly about what was on that video. They all allowed Ty Bell to remain principal of that school. And then they allowed Janice Campbell. Now, she's iffy for me. She contributed to the wreck. But that was her boss she was talking to. So could she have said, hey, boss, stop talking to me and turn around and look at the road? Well, I would have. I would have, because children's safety means more to me than it maybe does to her. But the fact that she got off that bus and abandoned those children, that's a problem. That's a huge problem. And I know she was injured, but she wasn't too injured to climb over. Why didn't she just stay where she was until help could come if she was that injured? But she maneuvered through all that stuff, and she had to wiggle out of that broken door just like Ty Bell did. It wasn't just a hop and a skip and a jump to get off that bus. You had to work hard to get off that bus. So that is where I am. And if I do nothing else, I want to make sure that every parent in the Norman Public Schools, Norman Public School districts, that you know what happened on that bus. That Ty Bell was turned around. He had one hand on the wheel, one hand pointing behind him, and his head was thrown back. That immediately after that crash, instead of tending to comforting or even assessing the damage, both Ty Bell and Janice Campbell hopped off that bus. Both of them just got off that bus. And then I want you to know that the entire field trip wasn't really a school field trip at all. That those checks were deposited into Ty Bell's bank account, and the refund checks came from Ty Bell's bank account, and that Norman Public Schools was allowing Ty Bell to promote his illegal, unregistered, and uninsured company at that school for God knows how many years. If Educational Youth Tours of Oklahoma was insured, maybe there would be enough money to pay all these children's medical bills. Maybe. I hope that there's enough red flags here that you will help me in demanding transparency and accountability. I pray that that is the case. I pray that this opens your eyes to what's happening in our school district and in our town, and that you help me be a voice for change, for transparency, for accountability, but mostly for the safety and well-being of our children. I let my kid go on a field trip, and it changed her life forever in a very bad way. It could be your kid, could be your niece, could be your neighbor's kid. All I did was say yes to a field trip that lots of other parents had said yes to before, and had that bus not crashed, none of this would be exposed right now. We wouldn't know about the illegal, unregistered, and uninsured company, Educational Youth Tours of Oklahoma. We wouldn't know the real cause of the wreck and the actions of those we trusted with our children afterwards. I don't hold anyone responsible for this, but those who are responsible. My child stayed out of school all last year. There are people at that school that I'm very, very, very deeply grateful for. Assistant Principal Miller is one of them. Counselor Rhonda Burton is another. I think they are just excellent people. They might not like me very much now, but I still like them. And I'm still grateful to them. It's important that we only hold those that are accountable. You know, that we not paint everybody with this paintbrush. But Ty Bell's responsible. To some extent, Janice Campbell is responsible. You'll have to decide what you think about that. But also the superintendent and the COO. And then the school board. How much do they know? Are they allowing this to happen? There's a lot of questions. And we have a choice. We can let it slide and just pretend like it didn't happen, and pretend like 24 children weren't injured and seriously endangered and neglected that day. Or we can demand better for my children and your children and everyone's children in the school district. I vote we demand better. I bought my house in Norman for a reason. I purchased it in that school district for a reason. And I'm willing to fight to make it better. Please coordinate with me. I would like to make a unified voice at future Board of Education meetings to demand some transparency and accountability here. I want to reach out to national media to get a light shown right on all of this. I've done some, but not enough. So I'm asking you to help me. If you have children in Norman Public Schools and you want to make sure that this cannot happen again, please join me. Let's fight for our children. They deserve it. Thank you.